Pastor Bambury support and funding is your agency receiving in actualization of your research and production, sir?
If you go, and this is in public space, if you go to the website of the Budget and National Planning now, you will see that my agency got 399 million naira. It is expected again that you remit some deductions up to about between 14.5 to 18%. Then contractors will take about 25 to 30%. So by the time you cumulate what is returning from this 399, it means that half of 399 million is now gone. So what is left is 399 divided by 2, which is 140 something million. You can see it's less than 200. So it's 140 something million naira. They go to interior villages in this country because our job include traditional bone setting, traditional birth attendance, all those cultural things. Okay, so in terms of funding, therefore, we are highly underfunded, but we are highly high performing institutes.
What is the relationship between the Nigerian national?
We collaborate very well. In fact, let me say here for the first time, and I hope I am not saying something that a senior colleague, the DG of NAFDAC, Professor Adeye, will not like, because we resonate, because she is also passionate about this country. Okay, so we just won a grant. I and NAFDAC, NNMDA and NAFDAC, we just won a competitive grant. Okay, so in collaboration, we are doing very well. Like I also told you, we have all our products with NAFDAC for assessment. We are scientists. Collaboration. We currently collaborate with 19 different academic and industry-based institutions across the globe.
My name is Suleiman Abdurrashid in Lokoja. My question to the DG is, how much effort is the agency putting to building the knowledge?
Research institution doing the most difficult thing on earth. It is easier to be a DG or a researcher in a synthetic research institute than in a natural product research institute. Because for synthetic research institutes, for a pharmaceutical synthetic products are already known. Because these are chemical moieties that the structures have been elucidated. So what we call monitoring parameters and analytical procedures and protocols are already known. But natural products, nobody knows what is there. Capacity building.
What marketing tools is the agency utilizing to popularize its products in the competitive Nigerian business environment?
In terms of productivity, in fact, if you see our productivity, anybody who is objective, if you see our productivity, our performance, we question how we are able to do it with the kind of funding that we get. And that's why I say, because I did my PhD on the bench in outside this country, and I know that the private sector, the pharmaceutical industries, or chemical industries, or food industries generally, philanthropists, foundations, faith-based organizations, civil societies, non-governmental organizations, profit and non-profit organizations in other parts of the world, they support research and development a lot, not kill other people. That's what you see happening in other parts of the world. And I am a beneficiary of the world. And I am a beneficiary of such things. In such things. I've gone to so many other countries. We are reasonable enough to say that all of those are traditional medical practitioners. We will bring them. Some of them will be teachers. Many of them will be students. Bring them. Some of them will be teachers. Many of them will be students. They will learn in our local languages. Nobody is going to force anybody in our local languages. Nobody is going to force anybody to come and speak English. Whatever language you are using, that the product that you have will help you develop them scientifically. so that they become more durable, so we can store longer. They become more stable. Then they become safer. And they become more aesthetical. That means they become more attractive in terms of packaging. All of these are now, they are the things that we have studied in Western medicine that we can apply. Because if we don't apply what we have studied in Western pharmacy or medicine,
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. 4 years have passed since operations of the African Continental Free Trade Areas, AFCFTA, officially began on the services, as well as usher in a new era of economic integration within the African continent. The AFCFTA, critical stakeholders say, intra-African commerce and position the continent as a major player on the global stage. Now, this is because the agreement grants access to a market of over 1.3 billion people and a combined gross domestic product GDP of $3.4 trillion. Now, Nigeria is one of the 54 countries out of 55 on the continent
and has the combined GDP of $3.4 trillion in addition to having the capacity to generate up to $30 billion annually in non-oil revenue in key sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, and fintech. For Nigeria, investing in a thriving fintech ecosystem that is beneficial to Africa's growing economy is the way to go.
Digital, the amount that is earmarked of where our economies would be in about a decade with any
achievable. Because where we are today, we're still scratching the surface. For the sector that I represent, for instance, we had the full liberalization of the telecommunications sector in 1999. And if you follow the history of that sector has been growing almost 30% year on year.
It's going to be of huge benefit to our country, both in terms of our huge population and in terms of the young and the youthful nature of that population.
This year, our objective is simple, and that is to underscore to the global community that from a digital economy point of view, the African continent is ready for business.
Further incentives towards harnessing the potential of the huge market. At the end, all parties committed to active engagement towards increasing participation of businesses in the guided trade initiative, reduce cost of capital, in addition to enlightenment on import regulations, origin requirements, and identifying potential trade partners in all items. NTA.
All right, let's start off by introducing our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program Professor Ken Ife, developmental economist, global economic consultant, is lead consultant at the ECOWAS Commission. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. We are also joined tonight by Alhaji Aliyu Abubakar. He also worked in the Nigeria office to the WTO and other international organizations. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and as you know, at some point in time, The program goes interactive where you can join in the conversation, but when it's that time, we'll remind you and also tell you about the process and the procedures as we always do every Tuesday. But for now, let's get started on the issues at stake. It's out of this from recent happenings. There's a new world order in trade. Not the least looking at the United States.
Billion that was going to run through. But there's a background to this. There are actually 4 major areas when you look at integration. The one is trade, what you call the free trade area. And incidentally, ECOWAS community presents, a show of what it could mean for the rest of Africa. So we have the free trade area. Now the free trade area is, the hallmark of the free trade area is what we call free movement of goods and services and capital and right of establishment, which ECOWAS delivered. And then you had a single passport, and then you have, that means any primary goods can go around in the territories without having to pay the percent. All agreed, but countries still have a leeway. They can use levy instrument to augment if there is an attack on any tariff line. So all of that tell us, but we haven't come to the ultimate taxes and thing and put it in that pool and then it's shared among the countries like European Union. Then the final stage is the economic union, which is where you talk about single currency. Now that has been the one that has been shifted every few years, and then finally, when we were about to do the ECO, France torpedoed it with Cote d'Ivoire. So those are the 4 key stages in the integration process.
There was tariff that was supposed to come into effect, I think, is it yesterday or day before yesterday? But that has been paused. So in essence, there is a 1-month window of opportunity for the parties involved, and here I'm referring to the U.S., Canada, and Mexico to try to sort out some of the concerns of the United States. And we hope that will be addressed among the parties, because I can tell you nobody wins any trade war. It's not good for the global economy, is not good for even the countries concerned. So we are not directly targeted now, but to see to the possibility of resolving some of the issues, and we hope the issues with tariff proposed. China has already proposed a 15% countermeasures, tit for tat. And there is, I read today that they don't, then China will probably impose 15% countermeasures on the U.S. good, and that will be disastrous, not just for the rest of the world, because they are the 2 main economies of the world. U.S. number 1, China number 2. But even the European Union, there is also the possibility of them getting involved. But I know they will do everything possible to address those issues so that we don't get into global trade war. Nobody wins, and we hope it will be abated. Already we have so many challenges, the effect of official to anybody, and we hope when the elephants fights, is the grass that suffers. So we hope trade war will be abated, and we'll
also within the metaphorical grass that you mentioned here, we also have our own issues, the Sahel states, which I've mentioned.
Yes.
And so now we're talking about integration, trade integration, which is key to economic growth. And even within ECOWAS itself, you've had cracks. And analysts have been speaking about the likely effects on this trade, this integration, when even the bloc itself is not standing up as it was constituted. What are the implications of this in terms of integration of trade?
Well, you know, it's remarkable that you are asking this question, because you can discuss this in great detail, because the ECOWAS has programmed for the rest of Africa, because they have the only thing that is happening at continental level is economic union. It hasn't come to customs union. We're still somewhere there. So that's why the decoupling Burkina Faso and Mali raises a lot of concern. And in fact, Togo wants to join them. And in fact, even Senegal has, given marching orders to France to fight to go. So we haven't seen the end of that. Yes, it is. And then the strange thing is that they have had to be paying up till now for colonial administration. They pay for that. They also, about 80%, they peg their currency, CFA, to euro. Peg their currency, CFA, to euro. And then bond about 80% of their foreign reserves to maintain that. And that's why when you look at the relationship between Nigeria and them, our currency looks as if it's devalued by 80%. 10 years ago, when we are traveling to anywhere in West Africa, we carry our naira. 1 naira buys 3 francs CFA. Now 1 naira can only buy 0.7. Can't even buy up to 1 franc CFA. So it's heavily devalued. And it has impact on our food inflation. But then the other area is where we have
in terms of Nigeria being a member of ECOWAS. How would you say the country has fared being part of ECOWAS in terms of its trade and efforts at promoting integration?
Okay. What my good friend and Prof has said about the disengagement of the 3 countries, that's the Association of Sahel States, Niger, Burkina, Mali, and there is the possibility of, as he mentioned rightly, now we ought to have achieved a lot. We did actually, and I'm going to mention some of the areas where progress have been made. But I want you to know that ECOWAS is multi-dimensional. It is handling different, but there are political, there are social, there are other areas that we will not be discussing.
Yes, because of, the political influence. But somehow, at the point in time, the whole idea was economic.
Yeah.
But again, what shapes
is on the way.
Yeah, that is the thing. That's what shapes the economy.
Yeah. So the achievements that have been made. There are so many protocols and so many agreements that have been reached under ECOWAS, and I'm going to mention some of them here. They may not be exhaustive, but the protocol of movement of persons and establishments was achieved. Agrees to that, so people can move. If you don't have to get visa for you to travel to any of the ECOWAS members. That is one. Where we have also so a lot have been achieved, but like any other union, there are so many challenges, constraints, even in ECOWAS. We are basically, it has countries that are divided in so many language, politics.
Needs to spend $93 billion every year for the next 10 years on infrastructure. But that study says if you were to spend $20 billion on fulfilling the missing links in regional infrastructure connectivity, you would generate $250 billion in trade, in regional trade. That tells you that there's a mathematics there that says he put economic integration. And let me tell you, yes, Nigeria is 60% of the population of ECOWAS. Nigeria supplies up 60 to 65% of the funding of ECOWAS. We know that. But Nigeria has also been leading in many of the regional business models. And I need to explain that. Now, and then I also explained unfulfilled potentials. Now, let's take the business models. We have, as ECOWAS, we facilitated the setting up of ECO Bank, which is now all over Africa, second largest bank. Okay. We also supported A-Sky, which has now gone continental. We also built a bid for all of those where he has invested is still in that market. And then you have all our pharmaceutical syringes and all of that. See how much of it crosses the border. And if you have the regional energy efficiency, a regional approach to sustainable energy efficiency, although the headquarters is based in Cape Verde.
We also have a number of reports in addition to the conversation in the studio. We'll take this report from Lagos.
Boost trade by removing all trade barriers between the countries involved and create common policies for easy movement of goods and services with a large domestic market and abundant natural resources, coupled with the increase in digital economy. Nigeria has a lot to benefit from the agreement.
We now have competitive advantages. It is what you have. The quantum of what you have will determine how you dictate the play. We have land, we have labor, I'm talking about population, we have capital, I'm talking about what we realize from our God-given gift.
Trade center, particularly in textiles, agriculture, and manufacturing, among others. In this market alone, hundreds of trucks move every day from Kano to other neighboring countries of Africa, with the shipments more to Western countries and Asia. But for many traders, it's a variety of challenges.
Repatriation of the currency is what is giving us the most problem in this transaction.
Kano's fund policies and logistical hurdles. This is in addition to poor goods.
Crossing from here to N'Djamena is a problem. To Niger, it's improper. To getting into any African country is mistake of abandoning the road and rail linkages.
Additionally, despite the expectation of increased regional market access, high logistic cost lines.
Mostly what Africa exports isn't what it is expected to export. When we export raw materials, the value chain was expected to be developed so that what we will be exporting.
Difficulties in navigating the complex regulation surrounding intra-African trade. This is owing to lack of a unified system by which businesses struggle to plan and budget effectively.
From our side, comply with the laws, policies and regulations in the different countries.
While the full potential of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is still unfolding, the road to seamless trade remains challenging.
If this is needed in the foreign market, then let us try as much as possible to have industries that can be able to break it, offered opportunities for employment, offered opportunities for companies to be established, to grow.
With sustained efforts at local, national and continental levels, coupled with the renewed commitment from the federal government, these challenges could eventually turn into opportunities in not this.
Coming to Nigeria through Cotonou, twice the 200,000 that we import through our. Who is losing? We are losing this constant revenue because of the whole thing about 16 agencies wanting to all be in that port at the same time and everything. They won't. If you employ the single window, before your luggage is put inside the ship in London, they would have sorted out all the documentation. Everything will be packaged and sent in. But you wait until when it comes here, you guys go to long room and begin your documentation.
Well, we have been joined in this conversation by the president of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, Dele Uyi. He joins us via Zoom. Thanks for being with us tonight. Yes, I believe you've listened to some part of the conversation. However, this is one area where we would very much appreciate your contribution in terms of what this portends for Nigeria's economic growth. And let's hear your views to start with in all of this.
I just joined recently. We're talking about the single window or...
All right. No. Generally, first, the free trade, agreement, the continental trade agreement, that's how...
To thank you for the opportunity and to let you know that even Nigeria, to set up various businesses, especially the banks, they're all over Africa, the fintechs, and most importantly, some industrialists like Dangote, who have also set up various industries all over Africa. Inform the AFCTA, pioneer space, and build around that. And we are working closely with them to make sure that we can optimize these opportunities. The AFCTA, like you know, we actually give Nigeria a bigger pie within the African market space. They're not unaware to trying to take advantage of these opportunities. And I can assure you that Nigerians, we are serious entrepreneurs, and members are taking full advantage of the opportunities. And we are working closely with the Nigerian AFCTA office under Segun Awolowo to make sure that Nigeria is well positioned. We also use this opportunity to also appeal to the government to make us more competitive by providing enabling infrastructure to support some of these industries, give us reasonably priced loans, so that the current 35% of the commercial bank cannot do any trade for anybody or any form of investment. But we also know that government is already listening to us. And just 2 days ago, in a Zoom meeting, the Honorable Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment said that indeed government has already decided to give us reasonable price loans, use the Bank of Industry as a catalyst for this. So we are happy. We hope the central bank will also support us by reducing the MPR rate, get the subnationals to pay back some several loans they've taken, so that the tobacco rate can crash, and we can also...
a move to resolve that issue as amicably as possible. First, using the bilateral track side, we engaged Ghana bilaterally to try and resolve the issue. And I could recall myself, the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment then, Otumba Richard Ni Adebayo, led a delegation to Ghana, came here several times in the ministry, and we had discussion with them. And based on the understanding we had, we also went to Accra, had discussions with with the intervention, political will at the highest level. There was a committee that was formed, and we hope the process will be completed so that we have that national single window. As a result of that, so many things will fall in, so many things. So my recommendation or take here is our authorities expedite the process of establishing, and you can do a lot through the single window.
If we just take a step back to how we started all of this, assessing a new exchange. Now, in a continental, market, as it's been, where global powers are threatening a trade war, how will this impact on?
Devil's advocate, I keep saying that it's better to have a global trade war than to have a third world war. Because in a trade war, he can always change his mind. And you've seen him. He's changed his mind on Panama. He changed his mind on Canada. But if you had a world war, you don't change your mind. What happens, you just wake up one morning, and then you hear that all the American mayhem and Armageddon, that will happen the following day. Nobody can intervene, no negotiation, nothing. It's not that about it. The thing is this, we will be affected in many ways. One is that we have AGOA, which they have graciously been renewing and renewing. And what Nigeria is doing in AGOA is really selling crude. If they put tariff on crude, I beg, bring that crude. Dangote needs the crude, please. Forget that. Give it to them. Dangote needs it. Okay. Then there are other African countries like Kenya, super exported, that are really exporting into there. They will be affected. Secondly, you have the fact that a country like USAID will get around $750 million standard, and that means also allow them to put other minerals that they have. And Nigeria had 44 of them. By the time we put our cobalt and put our gold and put that, we'll have a huge stock of all these minerals in our central bank to give us a stronger foreign reserve base. So times have changed. And look at the indicators. America, 88.4% of financial transactions globally is done in dollar. 60% of global debt is denominated in dollar. 59% of the 25% of the GDP, which is American, is in dollar. And in terms of reserve, 59% of global reserves are in dollar. But all these indices are fast falling.
SIMA and the organized private sector were part of it. And all the agencies relevant are already on that platform. The only thing missing is to have other critical stakeholders, like the private sector and the logistics companies, so that they can work just like every other person, which we have already made appeal for government to include us. Single window is everybody must contribute for optimize and work. Coming back to the issue of partnership with government, I can say that initially there were challenges, but we also understand that because when the government came in, there was so much uncertainties and maybe a lot of panic decisions. But now the government has stabilized. We have seen a retooling of the way they engage with us. We just waived the licenses fee for these years. And these are part of the reason why we're having some level of stability at the FS market. We tend to appeal for us to continue to collaborate. Then also
of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying. Resilient.
Number of issues. I'd like to go back to the question. Number of issues. I'd like to go back to the question of tariffs and recent happenings in Nigeria, particularly where organized labor had threatened to have a showdown over tariffs. In other words, telecommunications and electricity tariffs. A few hours ago, the organized labor suspended that proposed action. Again, here, Nigerians would ask, is there a mechanism where businesses, the business community, can meet regularly with key stakeholders on matters such as these?
Of course, that's what the Ministry of Labor and Productivity does. It's the core ministry, and then, of course, they have their mechanism. But what happens is this. It doesn't always have to be when they threaten to have a strike that you quickly scramble a meeting. It has to be a standing process. That's and then it puts too much stress in the system. I think they've agreed to suspend the strike and then see how it goes. But in fairness, you always have to think about fairness. They haven't had this price rise for quite a long time, and And what was suggested at 50% was a ceiling. Some could do 30%, some could do 40%. It was meant to be a ceiling.
A lot of people will tell you that the concept of a ceiling doesn't work in these climes. If you put the bar at 40, no one will go for 39.
That's true. That's true. But anyway, it's work in progress. I do hope that we meet them halfway, because the profits are vaporizing. And this sector is being regulated in terms of their price, but that's not.
So this brings the question to the fore. Where you have these distortions, agreed, there are many benefits which you can have from a continental free trade agreement, but with these distortions that look as if they are intractable, how really can you move forward on this?
Well, I think for you to move forward, you have to take into account so many considerations. You have to engage the various stakeholders involved. Times, prices of things are just too high, so for you to add any additional burden, I think it is a big problem. It is a big problem for many Nigerians. So the economic funding. If you are operating in a very big economy, like Nigeria, you have to take into account the size of the population and what you can get. But I think there is the essential things that we are consuming. It is very important. We shouldn't be squeezed to the point where we cannot breathe.
All right. Well, first callers on the line tonight. Yes, Umar Anachi.
One of the reasons why Mr. President want to remove fuel subsidy, he said we are subsidizing our neighboring countries. And he will continue to devalue our currency to the extent that if you take 1 gallon of fuel to Niger here, you end up getting 1 gallon around 20,000 such things. To devalue our currency at the same time complaining that we are subsidizing our neighboring countries. Some organization like NIMASA and Port Authority, they are dealing with dollars instead of naira. What can you react to this? May God continue to bless our country.
All right. Thank you very much, Umar. I'll just come. Well, it looks like you responded with a triple barrel question.
Let me start with the interesting one is the fuel subsidy thing. You know, why in ECOWAS, you know, when you talk about regional integration, we look for regional business models and economic models. Incidentally, why Nigeria is so important is that we recognize what Dangote does in industry as an appropriate regional business model, and we promote it vigorously. Now, see the problem Nigeria was facing about fuel subsidy, and then the fact that we can't refine our own crude, we have to send them away and all that. Now, private sector efficiency came in. Now, you now have a huge capacity, which has regional implication. Now, subsidy has gone. Subsidy got transferred from public sector to private sector. For 20 years, see what happens during Yuletide. During Christmas, it's always mayhem. The price of petrol goes very high. You can't find them, they're hoarded. Transport costs go high, food goes high. What happened last Christmas? Last Christmas, a price was maintained across the country. Now, normally, there will be equalization fund to pay for this. But there was no equalization fund because they are being owed $80 billion, naira. So what happens is that this same private part of the country has to buy it at the same price. That is private sector taking the subsidy. which government would have had to pay. You get what I'm saying? So there is a mileage, and then some of the, and if you look at what he did in cement, developing the entire continent, creating these factories everywhere, and then all of us, private sector is what ECOWAS for 30 years, from 1975, was purely meeting between officers and officers. It was only after time, because it's the private sector that does the trade, that does the business. So in the end of the day, we have to move with it. That's what this guy was, develop the economy, both regionally and nationally.
Okay, we have Chooks from Imo calling in. Hello, Chooks. Yes, go ahead, Chooks.
Hello?
Hello, if that is Chooks, go ahead with your question or your comment. Good evening. Go on.